So, good morning everyone. Our topic for today is statement of cash flows. Since hindi nga ata siya na-discuss or natutukan i-discuss. So, our presenters for today is your Ate Casey and me, your Ate Roma. Wait lang. So, our agenda today is about the introduction of statement of cash flows. Pag-uusapan din natin ang classifications of cash flows, the interest and dividends, and if may time pa tayo, problem and solving tayo. So, let's move on. So, statement of cash flows. So, statement of cash flows provides information about the cash receipts and cash payments of an entity during the period. It is a formal statement that classifies cash receipts or inflows and cash payments or outflows into operating, investing, and financing activities. So, yung statement of cash flow ay isang financial statement kung saan pinapakita nito yung paglabas at yung pagpasok ng pera sa company. So, bakit importante na ma-monitor ng mga accountants as well as mga business owner yung inflows at outflows ng cash? So, una kasi, ito yung pinaka-liquid na asset sa company. Sa loob ng company, ito yung pwedeng kuhain ng, sabihin na natin, employees or outsiders. And then, pwede din itong manakaw. Mas madali itong manakaw. At ito rin yung pinaka-important na assets natin kasi it is used for our operation. Aside from that, it also helps to project the future net cash flows of the entity. So, pag sinabi nating inflows, ito yung pagpasok ng pera sa kumpanya. And then, pag sinabi namang outflows, ito yung paglabas ng pera sa kumpanya. So, excuse me. So, whether inflow or outflow, ika-classify natin yung mga transactions natin that involves cash into operating, investing, and financing activities. So, move na tayo sa classifications of cash flows. So, we have three classifications: the operating activities, investing activities, and financing activities. So, let's define them. So, operating activities are the cash flows derived primarily from the primarily revenue-producing activities of the entity. So, ang involved dito is makikita sa income statement and then sa balance sheet under current and current liabilities. And then yung investment activities naman are the cash flows derived from the acquisition and disposal of long-term assets and other investment not include in cash equivalent. So, dito, yung involved sa investing activities is makikita under balance sheet, under non-current assets. Since, sabi nga dito, long-term assets siya. So, sa financing activities are the cash flows derived from equity capital and borrowings of the entity. So, yung mga involved dito, makikita natin sa balance sheet under non-current liabilities and equity naman. So, let's move on to the cash flows from operating activities. So, ano yung operating activities? Sabi dito, it involves providing services and producing and delivering goods. So, if you can remember, meron tayong three types of business: yung service, merchandising, and manufacturing. So, ang point dito, yung service, syempre para sa service company. And then yung producing, sa manufacturing naman yan, papasok. And then yung delivering, pwede siya sa merchandising business since dinideliver natin yung goods na binibenta natin. So, ang point lang natin dyan ay ganito. Kung sakaling yung pera ay related mismo sa operation ng negosyo, ang tawag doon ay operating kasi nga related siya dito sa services, producing, and then delivering goods. So, whether it is papasok or paglabas yung pera, basta patungkol dito sa tatlo ay bahagi siya ng operating activities. So, dito naman tayo sa second bullet. So, sabi dito, cash flows from operating activities are generally the cash effects of transactions and other events that enter into the determination of profit or loss. So, yung cash flows from operating activities, ito daw yung may effects. May effects sa profit or loss ng isang company. So, this can be presented using either the direct or indirect method. So, under operating activities, pwede natin siyang i-present through pwede natin siya i-present into methods, direct and indirect. Mamaya pupunta tayo dyan. And then last, all accounts under income, balance sheet, current asset and current liabilities. So mamaya matatakal din natin yan bakit andito yung income statement and then yung sa balance sheet under current asset and current liabilities. So move na tayo sa direct method. So sabi ko nga, pwede siyang i-present into two methods. So direct method muna tayo. So it is the entity's net cash provided used in operating activities is obtained by adding individual operating cash inflows and then subtracting the individual operating outflows. So, wait lang. Nasaan na ako? So, sa direct method, ina-add natin yung mga cash inflows. Then, sinusubtract naman yung sa cash outflows. So, kung makikita nyo dito sa computation and example, here, sabi dito, yung cash receipts daw from customers, kita nyo dito, naka-positive siya or ina-add. And then yung cash paid to suppliers, cash paid to employees, and then yung cash paid sa operating expenses is nililess. Yung total nun, ang tawag dun is cash generated from operations. And then yung interest paid, and then yung income taxes paid is nililess din. And then makikita nyo naman dito sa example. So, another thing pala guys, kapag positive yung total amount na makukuha natin, ang tawag doon is ang gagamitin natin dito sa parang title niya below sa total is net cash provided from operating activities. And then kapag negative naman yung nakuha nating total, ang tawag naman doon is net cash used in operating activities. So, move naman tayo sa indirect method. Indirect method derives the net cash provided by operating activities by adjusting profit for income and expense item not resulting from cash transaction. So, kanina sa direct method, doon yung may mga cash transactions. Yung magbabayad tayo ng cash and then yung makaka-receive tayo ng cash. While here sa indirect method, non-cash. So, not resulting from cash transactions. So, the adjusting begins with the profit followed by the addition of expenses and charges that did not entail cash payments. So, makikita natin dito sa indirect method is first yung net income or yung profit and then yung mga adjustments niya. Here, di ba? Profit and then adjustments. So first is yung profit and then adjustment niya, which are non-cash transactions. Example ng non-cash transactions is depreciation. And then, ina-add siya. And then, yung gain or increase in current asset, nililess natin siya. And same, nililess din natin yung decrease in current liability accounts. While yung decreases in current asset accounts, ina-add natin and yung sa increase in liability accounts, ina-add din natin. So, bakit yung depreciation ina-add while nililess yung sa gain or yung increase ng current asset account? So, ina-add yung depreciation kasi kapag ang expenses ay overstated, yung profit ay magiging understated. And then Ito na yung the rest, nabanggit ko naman na kung anong nililess and then ina-add. So, mababasa natin sa book yung increase and decrease ng current asset and current liability. So, paki-take note siya. So, kapag nag-increase ang current asset, meaning nililess natin. May illustration dito sa baba yung maliit. So, kapag increase yung current asset, nililess. Pero kapag ano naman, kapag nag-increase ang current liability is ina-add natin. And then kapag nag-decrease ang current asset, pag nag-decrease ang current asset, ina-add natin. And then kapag nag-decrease naman ang current liability is nililess natin. So, parang ganito lang yan. Pag indirect method, magkakaroon ng indirect effect sa increase at decrease ng non-current asset and current liabilities. So, next na tayo. Ay, dito pala sa kabila is yung example ng actual na statement of cash flows ng under indirect method sa operating activities. So, per past 7, enterprises are encouraged to report the cash flows from operating activities using direct method, but the indirect method is also acceptable. So, past 7 encourages entities to use direct method for the cash flows from operating activities. But take note na hindi sinabi na it is required na yun yung gamitin. It is just encouraged. So, it is still okay and acceptable to use the indirect method. So next are the following. Are the major classes of operating cash flows using direct method. So dito sa cash inflows, sabi ko nga kapag cash inflows, yun yung pumapasok na pera sa company. And then cash outflows, yun naman yung pera ang lumalabas sa company. So, sa under cash inflows, meron tayong dalawa. So, receipts from sales of goods and rendering of services. So, dito, makakatanggap tayo ng cash. Makakatanggap tayo ng cash kasi nga, nag-perform tayo ng service. And syempre, kapag nag-perform tayo ng service, magbabayad si client or si customers. And then next, receipts from royalties, fees, commissions, and other revenues. Ito naman yung kinikitang pera mula sa iba pang pwedeng pagkunan ng kita ng business. So more likely, ito yung mga revenue ng business, other revenue ng business. So sabi ko nga kapag cash inflow, pumapasok na pera under operating. So kapag cash outflow naman, karaniwan dito ay yung mga yung kapag nagbabayad tayo ng mga expenses. So, ito ay meron tayong 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, first is payment to suppliers of goods and services. Syempre, kapag nag-order tayo ng goods or ng ng service through supplier, syempre, kailangan nating magbayad. So, next is payment to employees. Syempre, nagpapasaldo tayo ng employees. And then, payment to taxes. Syempre, kailangan nating magbayad ng tax or yung buwis. And then, payment of interest expense. Syempre, nagbabayad tayo ng interest. And then, payment for other operating expenses. Yan naman yung pagbayad pa natin sa iba pang gastusin. So, para mas madali pang maintindihan kung ano yung under ng operating asset, ito yung mga transaction that involves revenue. So, ito, tandaan na lang natin kasi, hindi ko siya nailagay. So, tandaan natin, kapag under operating activities, ito yung mga transactions that involves revenue accounts tulad ng mga cash inflows, tulad ng nandito. So, more on revenue na natatanggap ng companies. And then, expense account din, kasama siya. Kasi nga, nagbabayad tayo. Sabi nga natin doon sa cash outflows, karamihan ay payments of expenses. And kasama din dyan yung accounts receivable and accounts payable account. Yung accounts receivable and accounts payable. Kapag nagpapautang tayo or kapag meron tayong nasisingil na pautang coming from our credit customer. So, Kaya ko nabanggit kanina yung sa income statement and then yung balance sheet under current asset and current liabilities. Kasi sa income statement, syempre makikita natin doon yung revenues and then yung mga expenses kasi doon natin siya, kasi doon natin siya, ang tawag doon, kinocompute. So parang sa revenue, nililess natin doon yung mga expenses under income statement. And then sa cash, sa balance sheet naman, nandun na yung breakdown ng mga assets and then liabilities and equities. So okay, under cash flows, under cash flows sa operating, ito yung mga transactions na involves revenue account, expense accounts, tsaka sabi ko nga kanina, yung accounts receivable and accounts payable na account. So under operating activities din is yung mga normal operations ng business, yung mga gastos at inflows sa normal course ng business. So next na is the cash flows from investing activities. So si ate nyo na KAYSY ang magdi-discuss dyan. KAYSY, take over.
So, ayun, naririnig nyo na ba ako? Okay
Yes.
lang ba yung audio?
Yes, naririnig ka.
Sige. So, ayun, let's proceed naman sa discussion ng cash flows from investing and financing activities. So, punta muna tayo sa cash flows from investing activities. So, bali mag-off cam na lang ako kasi delikado yung internet ko eh. So, ayun. So, ano nga ba yung mga cash na involved dito sa klase ng activity na to? So, next slide. Next na lang. So, ayan, define muna natin what is investing activities. So, sabi, investing activities involves making and collecting loans or yung mga pautang. So, second is kasama din dito yung mga pag-acquire or yung pagbili natin and pag-dispose ng investment in debt or equity securities, and as well as yung pag-obtain and pagbebenta natin ng property and equipment. Bakit nilipat na? Charot.
Binalik ko na, sorry na ilipat ko.
Hindi pa kasi siya, ayun. So, ulit. So, investing activities involves making and collecting loans or yung mga pautang. Tapos second is acquiring or yung pagbili and pag-dispose natin ng investment in debt or equity securities. And third is yung pag-obtain and pagbibenta natin ng properties and equipment and other productive assets. So, ayun, next slide. So, tignan natin what are the inflows and outflows of cash under these activities or yung mga pumapasok and lumalabas na pera under sa investing activity na to. So, sa cash inflows or yung mga pumapasok na pera is una, andyan yung receipts from sale of property and equipment. So, nakabenta ka ng property and equipment. So, yung pera na natanggap mo dito from the sale is considered as a cash inflow under investing activity. So, second is the receipt from sale of investment in debt or equity securities. So, ngayon naman, nakabenta ka daw ng debt or equity securities under investment. So, yung inflow of cash is considered as investing activity. And for the third one, receipts from collections on notes notes receivable, I should say, is ano naman, yung nakakolekta ka naman from your notes receivable or yung pautang mo. So, yung natanggap mo doon sa nakolekta mong pera is considered as as cash inflows from this activity. So next naman, lumalabas, first is nandyan yung payment to acquire property and equipment. So bumili ka naman daw ngayon ng property and equipment. So yung perang pinambayad mo is an outflow of cash under this activity. So second is the payment to acquire sale of investment in debt or equity securities. So dito, ikaw naman yung bumili ng investment. So again, yung perang pinangbayad mo is an outflow of cash. And lastly, for the cash outflow, the payment to make loans to others, generally in the form of notes receivable. So nagbayad ka dito to make loans. So outflow again of cash. So next slide. So dito naman tayo sa cash flows from financing activities. So sabi, next slide. So financing activities includes obtaining resources from owners and creditors. So itong financing activities na to are also activities that results in yung pagbabago sa size and composition ng contributed equity and yung borrowing ng isang entity. So para mas maintindihan natin yan, tignan natin yung inflows and outflows dito sa activity na to. So next slide. So ayan, for inflows, so andyan yung una, receipts from investment by the owners. So may nag-invest daw sa company mo and that investment is in the form of cash. So yung natanggap mong pera is an inflow from financing activity. And another one is a receipt from issuance of notes payable. So for example, nangutang yung company mo sa isang financing firm. So may dumating na pera sa'yo, which is under promissory note. So yung natanggap mong pera is an inflow again. So next is, on the other hand, sa cash outflow, meron tayong dalawa. First one is, andyan yung payments to owners in the form of withdrawal. So let's say, ikaw yung owner ng company and nag-withdraw ka ng pera sa company mo. So yung perang nilabas mo, syempre is a cash outflow dito sa activity na to, sa financing activities. And lastly, the payments to settle notes payable. So nagbayad ka naman dito ng notes payable mo. So that is again a cash outflow under financing activity. So ayun, next slide please. So dito naman tayo. So we have here the interest and dividends. So define muna natin yung dalawa para mas malinaw, no? So hindi na dyan nailagay. Pero i-ano ko na lang, sabihin ko na lang. So interest is a price, or better to say charges. A borrower pays to a lender for letting the former to use the money that latter has had. So ito yung binabayad natin in addition to dun sa perang hiniram natin. So yung interest dito is, yung interest na tinutukoy dito is depende dun sa nagpautang, kung ilan yung gusto niya or kung ilan yung patong niya, or pwede ring depende sa haba ng time ng pagbabayad. So kung kunwari, pag mas mahaba yung time na babayadan mo, yung utang mo, pwedeng mas malaki yung interest niya, ganun. So on the other hand naman, dividends is a distribution of profits by a corporation to its shareholders. So kapag ang corporation is naka-earn ng profit or surplus, so it is able to pay a proportion of profit as a dividend to shareholders. So pwede din to kapag, kunwari, nakaranas na yung company ng bankruptcy or nasa liquidation stage na sila and kailangan ng i-distribute yung mga dividends. So, pwede din yun dito. So cash flows from interest and dividends received and paid shall each be disclosed daw separately. So, each shall be classified in a consistent manner from period to period as either operating, investing, or financing. So, dito sa table sa baba, makikita natin na sa interest income received sa option 1. So, i-disclose daw siya as part of operating activity. So, bakit kaya? Kasi, those incomes are considered sa computation ng profit or loss. And yung income din na yon are ina-apply sa entities operations. So, ganun. So, for option 2, investing activities daw. Kasi they are connected with the investments. So, di ba interest incomes, di ba, no? Yung loans, interest incomes yung sa investing activities, yung mga loans, di ba? So they are connected with the investments of the entity. And dahil nga investments, they are disclosed under investing activities. So ayun. So second, for the interest expense paid. So under option 1, it shall be disclosed daw under part of operating activity. So bakit? So kasi it is paid out of the profits generated from the operations. So kung nakita nyo kanina doon sa diniscuss ni Ate nyo Roma, niles yun sa yung interest paid, di ba? Niles siya sa operating activity. So ayun. For option 2 naman, financing activity daw kasi interest is paid on loans, di ba? Tapos loans are classified under financing. And dahil financing yun, therefore, yung interest na binayadan should be disclosed as financing activity. So, ayun. And for number 3, sa dividend income received, for option 1, di-disclose daw natin siya as part again of the operating activity kasi daw yung interest income received is kino-consider ito sa pag-compute ng profit or loss. And again, ina-apply din siya sa entity's operation. So, however, for option 2, i-disclose naman daw natin siya as part of investing activity kasi kahit daw those incomes are considered in profit or loss determination, dapat i-disclose pa rin daw siya under investing activities kasi yung mga return on investments is hindi may a-apply for meeting operating expenses. And if ever man na may apply daw yun ng entity, so therefore, it is better na i-disclose yun under the same heading where relevant investments are disclosed, yun nga, which is investment activities. And lastly, for the dividends income paid to owners, so for option 1, i-disclose daw natin as part of financing activities. Kasi in common practice, sabi, dividends paid, irrespective of types of shares, are disclosed under financing activities. Kasi, di ba, most of the dividends is under equity, di ba? And equity is nakapaloob siya sa financing activities. So, therefore, doon natin siya dinidisclose. And for option 2, i-disclose daw natin under operating activity kasi some of the dividends are considered in the profit or loss determination. So, therefore, it would be good kung i-disclose natin siya under operating activity. So, ayun. Next slide. Please. So, here, next slide pa. So, here is an illustration on how we prepare a statement of cash flows. So, ayan, syempre, in preparing statement of cash flows, dapat unang-una nating tatandaan is huwag nating kakalimutan yung heading. Itong 3 linya na nasa pinakataas, na nasa gitna, yan. Yan yung heading. Yan yung unang-unang dapat hindi mawawala sa statement of cash flows. So, ayan, weddings are as statement of cash flows for the month ended May 31, 2018. 18 ba yan? Oh, 18. So, una, pagtapos na natin yung heading, una, punta tayo sa cash flows from operating activities. So, i-less natin yung outflows sa inflows under this activity and yung total nila kapag ang lumabas is positive amount. So, ang tawag doon is, sabi nga ni Ate Roman yung kanina, net cash provided. Pero kapag negative naman yung amount na lumabas, ibig sabihin, ang tawag doon is net cash used. So, same na gagawin kapag dito na sa cash flows from investing activities and financing activities. So, bali ang kailangan natin gawin is i-total itong 3 activities individually. So, kailangan i-less muna natin yung inflows at outflows ng bawat isa, tapos i-total sila sa i-total sila isa-isa. So, ayan. Tapos, after nun, yung total nila, so pag-a-add na natin yan, no? So, yung total nila is either magre-result sa increase ng cash or kapag positive siya and a decrease in cash kapag negative amount naman yung lumabas. So, from that, So from that amount, yung kung anong makompute natin sa increase or decrease ng cash, is dun natin i-add yung beginning balance ng cash para makapag-arrive tayo sa cash balance at the end of the period. So ayun, ganun lang siya. So for the next is a sample problem na i-discuss ulit ni Ate niya Roma. So Ate Roma, take over. Thank you.
So, balik tayo guys kasi less than 1 minute na and then I'll end this muna. Balik tayo. So, next. So, para mas maintindihan pa natin, magsagot tayo ng isang example before tayo mag-move doon sa mga pre-prepare na questions. If abutin pa tayo ng time. So, the following, so ito na yung problem. So, wait lang, admit lang natin. So, here, the following, again, yeah, may admit lang ako, guys. So, ayun, sabi ko nga, para mas maintindihan natin, magsagot tayo ng isang sample problem before tayo mag-move doon sa other problems. So, here is the sample problem. So, the following are the various cash flows and other informations of the Teen Wolf Company for 2020. So, may additional information agad siya. So, the company's statement of financial position reported the cash balance of 500,000 as of January 1, 2020 and January 1, 2020 and 719,000 as of December 31, 2021. So, tawag dito. So, wait lang. So, okay, kasi yung sa cash balance na dapat makikita natin dun sa statement of financial position, wait, ayun. So, yung cash balance na dapat makikita natin dun sa statement of financial position ay kaparehas nung ending balance sa gagawin nating statement of cash flows. Kaya meron siyang additional information. So, tignan na natin yung mga iba pang transactions. So, letter A, payment of interest, 82,000. And then letter B, proceeds from the sale of land, 79,000. Letter C, cash withdrawal, 121,000. Letter D, depreciation expense of 24,000. Collections from the customers, 983,000. And then letter F, payments of income taxes, na 154,000. Letter G, additional cash investment na 189,000. Sa letter H naman, meron tayong payments sa supplier and employees na 675,000. And then last, meron tayong increase in inventories na 46,000. So, una muna natin kailangan gawin is i-determine natin kung inflows ba siya or outflows. So, kapag sinabi natin inflows, sabi ko nga ulit, kapag inflows, yun yung pumasok na cash sa business. And then, pag outflows, yun yung lumalabas na pera sa business. So, isa-isahin natin. So, letter A, payment of interest na 82,000. So, siya ay, but ayaw niyang mag-next. So, siya ay outflows. Kasi nga, nagbayad tayo ng interest. And then letter B, proceeds from the sale of land. So, inflows siya kasi nung binenta natin yung lupa or yung land, nakatanggap tayo ng bayad na 79,000. So, letter C, cash withdrawal daw. So, dito, isa siyang outflow. Kasi, winidraw ng owner yung pera palabas sa company. So, etong letter D, medyo quite tricky siya. Pero, meron tayong depreciation expense na 24,000 daw. So, ano ba siya? Inflow ba siya or outflow? So, dito, isa siyang, isa siyang non-cash. Hindi siya outflows or inflows. Non-cash siya. Non-cash transaction siya. Ibig sabihin nun, nung ni-record natin yung depreciation expense, wala namang cash na involved. So, ibig sabihin, hindi siya dapat mag-reflect sa statement of cash flows. Next, letter E, collections from customers. So, nakatanggap tayo ng bayad coming from our customers. So, syempre, dahil nakatanggap tayo, that is an inflow. And then letter G, additional cash investment. So, yan naman is outflows. Yan ay isang outflows. Kasi, anong letter na tayo? Kasi nagbayad tayo ng tax. And then letter G. Yan, additional, yung letter F pala, payment of income tax. Sorry, nalagpasan ko. So, outflows yon. Kasi nga nagbayad tayo ng tax. And then yung letter G is additional cash investment, which is inflows. So, inflow yan kasi may pumasok na pera. So, nagpasok ng pera, pumasok yung pera coming from the owner kasi ininvest niya sa business. So, syempre, madadagdagan yung pera or capital ng business. So, sa letter H naman is payment to suppliers and employee na 675,000. So, syempre, dahil nagbayad tayo, yan ay outflow. So, dahil siya ay outflow, kasi nga, sabi ko nga, nagbayad tayo sa ating supplier and then sa ating mga employees. And then last is yung increase in inventory na 46,000. So, again, yan ay non-cash. Kasi, same with depreciation expense, non-cash transaction din siya kasi kasi nag-increase lang naman yung inventory. Wala namang cash na involved based on the transaction na given. So, kapag sinabi naman dyan na payment in inventory, yun naman yung may outflow kasi sinabi niyang payment. Dito, sinabi lang naman niyang nag-increase yung inventory. Hindi natin alam if inutang ba yung inventory na binigay sa problem or binili. So, i-assume lang natin siya as a non-cash transaction since increase lang siya ng inventories. So, after natin ma-determine if cash inflows ba siya or cash outflows, yung transaction, ang susunod naman natin gagawin is i-classify naman natin siya if operating activity ba or investing activity ba or financing activity ba. So, sa letter A, syempre, that is an operating income. Operating activities. So, that is an operating activities. Kasi, nagbayad tayo. So, nasa din yan kanina? Nasa siya, cash outflow ng operating activities. So, number 2, since involve ang non-current asset, kasi non-current asset yung land na binenta natin, syempre, investing siya kasi nga non-current asset. So, dito, may cash withdrawal. So, kapag involved yung withdrawal, that is under financing activity. So, dahil yung depreciation expense ay non-cash, so hindi siya kasama sa classification. So, non-cash pa din siya. Excuse me. So, sa letter E. So, dahil may collection tayo from the customer, so revenue account siya. So, parang direct hit niyan is under operating activity. So, kasi nasa cash inflow siya ng operating activity. Then, letter F, payment of income taxes. So, yan naman ay part ng expense account. And then, yung expense account, sabi ko nga kanina, is under operating activities din siya. So, yung letter G, additional cash investment. So So, ang involved dyan is owner's equity. So, kapag owner's equity, ang involved is under financing. So, nasa din yan kanina sa third slide ato or sa second slide. Nasabi ko na kapag sa financing, ang makikita natin doon or ang involved doon is sa balance sheet under non-current liabilities and then yung equity. So, sa letter H, may payment tayo sa supplier and then employees. So, again, under operating activities siya. Kasi nga, 'di ba? Nasa cash nasa cash outflow yan ng operating activities na banggit kanina. And then yung letter I, nandyan na kanina pa yung sagot is non-cash. So, non-cash transaction siya. So, hindi siya kasama sa classification. So, sana medyo nakita nyo yung importance ng alam nyo kung ano yung classification niya. Alam natin yung importance na alam natin siyang i-classify kung under operating ba or investing or financing. Kasi doon pa lang, kapag alam natin kung saan siya, makla-classify na natin siya ng mas mabilis. Hindi na natin kailangan pang i-memorize. So, kapag alam na natin, medyo master na natin, madali na yan. So, next. So, another. So, i-remind ko lang, kapag operating, ang involved ay revenue, expense, accounts receivable, and accounts payable na account. Kapag investing, so kapag investing, ang involved dyan is non-current accounts, tsaka yung notes receivable account. Kapag financing naman, ang involved dyan is yung owner's equity, and then yung withdrawal at notes payable account. So, tingnan na natin kung paano natin mabubuo yung statement of cash flow ng Tin Wolf Company for the year 2020. So, heading niya is Tin Wolf Company Statement of Cash Flows for the year ended December 31, 2020. So, sabi nga kanina ni Ate Casey nyo, mahalaga yung heading. So, huwag nyong kakalimutan yan kasi plus points din yan kapag checking. So, dito, naka-classify na yung mga operating activities, investing activities, and financial activities. So, naka-classify siya based doon sa pinag-classify natin kanina, sa pinag-identify natin kanina. So, una muna natin basahin. So, kapag cash out, so, wait lang. So, ayun. Sorry, medyo nawala ako. So, kapag guys, so, sa cash flows from operating activities, yung collections from customers, since profit siya, is ina-add siya. And then yung mga payments, sabi ko nga kanina, sinusubtract natin yan. So, kapag sinusubtract natin, syempre, need natin ng parenthesis. Or syempre, yung minus sign. Para matandaan natin na need siyang isubtract. And then, sorry. So, and then, ito yung mga i-deduct natin. So, yung payment to suppliers and employees, yung payment to income taxes, and then yung payment for interest. So, kapag natin yan, kapag sinolve natin, ang makukuha natin is positive 72,000. So, sabi ko nga kanina, nabanggit din ni Ate Casey nyo, kapag positive ang sagot, net cash provided ang gagamitin. And then kapag kapag negative ang sagot, yung net cash use in operating activity naman. So, move na tayo dito sa cash flows from investing activities. So, iisa lang yung nasa investing activities natin, which is yung payment from the sale of land. So, syempre, 79,000 lang yan. And then, yung net cash niya, net cash provided niya or net cash use niya is 79,000 negative siya. So, used in. And then, next is yung financial activities. So, dalawa lang yan. So, yun yung additional cash investment and then cash withdrawals. So, syempre, since dalawa lang yan, yung 189,000, ililess natin yung withdrawal. Papasok si Ma'am Rose Ann, guys. So, good morning, Ma'am Rose Ann. So, dito sa ililess natin yung cash withdrawals na 121,000. So, ang makukuha natin is positive 68,000. So, net cash provided siya ng financial activities. So, sabi nga kanina ni Ate Casey nyo, para makuha natin yung net increase or decrease ng cash, ipag-a-add natin itong mga total ng net cash provided ng operating activities, ng investing activities, and then financial activities. So, pag pinag-add natin yan, ang total is 219,000. So, meaning, for the year ended ng December 31, 2020, may nadagdag na 219,000 pesos sa cash ng business. So, next naman is, idadagdag natin yung cash balance at the beginning of the period. Ito yung additional statements na sinasabi kanina. Yung in January 1 daw, 2019, ang starting balance ng cash ay 500,000. So, itong 500,000, pag in-add natin siya sa net increase ng cash, which is 219,000, meron tayong makukuhang 719,000. So, tama yung sagot natin kasi since yung cash balance kanina, cash balance at the end of the period ay 719,000 as is stated doon sa statement of financial position, yung sinabi kanina sa problem. So, yun. So, wait lang. So, sa statement of cash flows natin, ang ending balance ay 719,000, which is correct nga, sabi ko ulit, kasi dahil yung sa statement of financial position, ang nag-reflect siya doon sa amount ng cash account doon. So, ito yung isang sample problem na nakita ko. So, may hinanda kaming ang tawag doon, problems and theories. So, wait lang, i-stop share ko lang and then i-share ko yung isang PowerPoint. Saan na yun? So, share screen ko lang po ulit. So, here are the theories and here are the theory questions and problems. So, guys, if alam niyo yung sagot, pwede kayong mag-unmute or pwede kayong magsagot sa chat box. So, question number 1, an objective of this statement of cash flow is to, letter A, disclose changes during the period in all asset and all equity accounts. Letter B, disclose the change in working capital during the period. Letter C, provide information about the company's operating, investing, and financing activities. Letter D, none of these choices are correct. So, kapag alam niyo yung sagot, pwede kayong mag-unmute, guys, or pwede niyo i-type yung answers. Oh, ay hindi ko ba na-allow na mag-unmute. So, nag-raise si Ina siguro sa ano na lang, sa chat box na lang. Hindi ko pala na-allow kanina na pwede mag-unmute. Sa chat box na lang yung answers, guys. So, ang sagot ni Raymalin is letter C, nag-PM siya sa akin. And then, nag-PM din si Miss Avril. And then, nasa everyone, okay, sumagot lahat. Sila, pare-pareho, letter C. So, tingnan natin yung sagot if letter C nga. So, yeah, lumabas na yung sagot. So, tama. The objectives of this statement of cash flow is to provide information about the company's operating, investing, and financing activities. So, nabanggit yan kanina sa discussion. So, question number 2. So, ano ko lang. So, question number 2. The primary purpose of the statement of cash flow is to provide information. So, letter A, the operating, investing, and financing activities of a company during a period. Letter B, that is useful in assessing cash flow prospects. Letter C, about the cash receipts and cash payments of a company during a period. Letter D, about the entity's ability to meet its obligation and its ability to pay dividends and its need for external financing. So, kapag alam niyo yung sagot, guys, sa chat box na lang ulit. Kasi hindi ko nakalimutan kong i-enable yung sa pag-unmute. So, may sumagot ng isa, si Raymalin, letter A daw. And then si Miss Ira din, through PM, letter A daw. So, if wala nang sasagot, guys, i-show ko na yung answers. So, ang sagot dito sa question number 2 is, letter C. Letter C, guys, kasi about cash receipt and cash payment of the company during a period. So, nabanggit, yan yung nasa pinakaunahan ng, ang tawag doon, definition ng statement of cash flows, kung hindi ako nagkakamali. So, yun. Sabi dito, the statement of cash flows provide information about the cash receipts and cash payments of an entity during a period. So, time check, guys, 11:27 na. So, kaya pa ba? So, parang isang theory question na lang, and then continue tayo maybe on Saturday or next Tuesday. So, and then hindi pa pala tayo nagtitake ng pictures. So, isang theory question na lang. So, last question for today is, wait lang. So, ayun, question number 3. To arrive at net cash provided by operating activities, it is necessary to report revenues and expenses on a cash basis. This is done by, letter A, re-recording all income statement transactions that directly affect cash in a separate cash flow journal. Letter B, estimating the percentage of income statements transactions that were originally reported on a cash basis and projecting this amount to the entire array of income statement transaction. Letter C, eliminating the effects of eliminating the effects of income statement transactions that did not result in a corresponding increase or decrease in cash. And letter D, eliminating all transactions that have no current or future effect on cash, such as depreciation from the net income computation. So, pa-chat na lang again yung sagot, mga minamahal kong mga addings. And then, syempre, mga ka-group ko kung alam niyo yung sagot. Tulungan natin yung mga adding natin. So, para na din tayo, dismiss tayo sabihin ko na din yung sagot since wala pa namang nag-chat. So, ang sagot is letter C, eliminating the effects of income statement transactions that did not result in the corresponding increase or decrease in cash. So, yan lang muna for today, guys, since 11:30 na din and may klase kami. So, see you on next meeting, either Saturday, if okay sa inyo, para matapos na natin tong cash flows, or sa Tuesday. So, pa-open na lang ako ng camera, guys. Mag-take tayo ng attendance. Ay, hindi pa pala ako naka-open cam. So, ayun guys, pa-open na lang ako ng cam. And then, i-take ko na. Hindi makapag-open cam si Miss Alo, okay lang. So, 1, 2, 3. Smile na guys. And then, isa pa para ipang-compel tayo. So, 1, 2, 3. Ayun guys, thank you for participating today. Kita tayo sa next session. And ma'am, good afternoon po ulit. So, pwede na. Thank you po ma'am. And so guys, pwede na kayong mag-leave para naman makapag-early lunch na din kayo. So, thank you ulit.